All right, let's jump right in. We're about to go on a pretty wild journey through 2,500 years of amazing ideas, all inspired by the book Legends of Learning. We're going to get inside the minds of the absolute giants who shaped what it even means to learn, starting in the streets of ancient Athens and taking it all the way to the global stage today.
It really all boils down to this one simple-sounding question. Is it about getting a good job, becoming a good citizen, or is it about finding some deeper truth? This very question has fueled debates for centuries, and the answers tell us a whole lot about who we are and what we really care about.
So let's think of this as a quest. We're going to follow the breadcrumbs, tracing how the answers to that single question have changed and evolved from one legendary thinker to the next. So, where do we start? Our story kicks off in the ancient world, with the philosophers who basically built the foundation for all of Western and Eastern educational thought. And for them, the answers revolved around two massive concepts: truth and virtue. First up, Socrates. For him, education wasn't about downloading a bunch of information into your brain. No, it was a moral duty. This quote just captures his whole philosophy perfectly. To live a life that actually means something, you have to constantly question everything, especially what you think you know. And this is how he did it. It's so brilliant. He wouldn't just give you the answer. Instead, he'd ask question after question after question, what we now call the Socratic method, and he'd help you give birth to your own understanding. The key takeaway here is that for Socrates, truth isn't something you're given. It's something you have to discover for yourself.
Now let's move to his student, Plato, and then Plato's student, Aristotle. This is where you see this fundamental split in thinking that, honestly, we still see today. On one side, you have Plato, the idealist. He believed education was about escaping the cave of our everyday world to understand these perfect abstract truths. That's kind of the root of a classic liberal arts education. But then Aristotle, the ultimate pragmatist, pulls it right back down to earth. He argued that no, education should be about observing the real world around us and building good habits to achieve what he called eudaimonia, basically human flourishing. Think hands-on learning, scientific training. That's Aristotle.
Meanwhile, halfway across the world in the East, Confucius was offering a different but just as powerful answer. For him, the whole point of education was to cultivate Ren, which you can think of as humanity or benevolence. So learning wasn't just for you. It was about figuring out your place in your family, in your community, and creating harmony. It was all about character, first and foremost.
Okay, so for almost 2,000 years, these ancient ideas pretty much ran the show. But let's fast forward a bit, because a totally revolutionary idea starts to bubble up. What if education isn't about forcing a child to fit into a pre-made box? What if it's about nurturing the way a child naturally learns and grows?
And you can just see how this idea snowballed over time. It starts with John Locke saying we're all born as blank slates, and our experiences write our story. Then Rousseau takes that and argues, hey, maybe we should just follow the child's natural development. That leads directly to Friedrich Froebel inventing kindergarten, literally a garden for children, where they learn through play. And finally, Maria Montessori comes along and refines it with her idea of a prepared classroom that gives kids freedom within structure. See the pattern? The spotlight has completely moved onto the learner. Then Jean Piaget came along and gave this whole child-centered revolution a scientific backbone. He proved that kids aren't just tiny adults. Their brains actually develop in clear, predictable stages. They literally build their understanding of the world in completely different ways depending on how old they are. I mean, that insight changed everything about how we think about teaching. Okay, so education can be for truth. It can be for nurturing the child. But what if it's for something even bigger? In the 20th and 21st centuries, a powerful new answer comes into focus: education as a mission to change the world.
John Dewey is the key figure here. I mean, with this one powerful sentence, he just smashes the wall between the classroom and the real world. He argued that schools shouldn't be a place you go to prepare for life. They should be life. Little communities where students learn about democracy by actually doing it, by working together to solve real-world problems.
The Brazilian educator Paulo Freire pushed this idea to a whole new level. He had this blistering critique of what he called the banking model of education, where teachers just deposit facts into students' heads like they're empty piggy banks. He said instead we need problem-posing education, where teachers and students are on the same level, investigating their world together to challenge injustice. For Freire, education is the practice of freedom.
And you can see this mission take different shapes, but with the same fire behind it. For Gandhi, his Nai Talam was about teaching practical skills and self-reliance to build a stronger, more equal India. For Dewey, it was all about creating citizens for a thriving democracy. And for Freire, it was about achieving liberation from oppression. 3 different goals, but one shared, absolute conviction that education could build a better world.
And that brings us right up to today. Malala Yousafzai is a living reminder that this mission is nowhere near finished. Her incredible fight for 12 years of quality education for every single girl. That's not just about reading and math. It's a fight for basic human rights, for equality, and for a more peaceful world.
Phew. Okay, so after that whirlwind tour, what's the big takeaway? The thing is, all these legends, they were all part of the same huge, ongoing conversation about what it means to learn and really what it means to be human.
And when you look closely, you start to see these timeless themes pop up again and again. Doesn't matter if it's Socrates or Malala, they all saw education as a tool for empowerment. They all believed in developing the whole person, not just the brain. They all fought for equity, and they all understood that we learn best by actually doing things. And they knew that creativity isn't just a nice-to-have, it's essential.
You know, I want to leave you with this idea from Confucius, because I think it just perfectly captures the spirit of this entire journey. This is the ultimate purpose, isn't it? It's a chain reaction that starts with learning and ends with a better world for every single one of us.
But here's the thing. This conversation isn't over, not by a long shot. Now it's our turn to answer the question. In a world that's being completely reshaped by AI, by climate change, by deep divisions, what do we believe the purpose of education is for right now? The answer we come up with? Well, it's going to define our future.